Namaste Sarasvate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisheshaya Sunyavadi Asitare Shatari Namaste Sarasvate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisheshaya Sunyavadi Asitare Shatari Jaya Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtata Satishla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Kanaya Ki Jai, Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Rai Ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Brihat Madanga Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Agoda Premanandi. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to Sri Guru Garanga. Oh, glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirasesha Sanyavadi Pastachade Shatardine. Hare Krishna, thank you for inviting us to come on your Sunday class to give us your association today. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripasindhubhyascha Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, for this Bhagavad Gita class this evening. And I guess some devotees are on Facebook, is that correct?
Yes, Maharaj.
Live on Facebook. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. I hope everyone can hear. Is it clear?
Yes, Maharaj, very clear.
Okay. So we'll start off just offering our pranams, our Mangalacharanam, and then we'll chant the verse together. And then I'll try to speak a few words. And then if you have any questions, we request those who can to please send them on chat, on Zoom chat, whatever you call it. And those who cannot, on Facebook. I guess somebody will tell me what the questions are. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjara Shalakaya Chakshuram Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So today, who's our host today? Papanetra, are you the host?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So Papanetra Prabhu has now put the verse, today's verse from Bhagavad Gita. And if you wish to follow, you have your book, or if you wish to follow from the screen, you may do too. And I will say one word at a time. Please repeat. Gurun Mahatva Mahanubhavan Shreyo Toksham Vaiksham Apiha Loke Atvarta Kamam Guru Ihaiva Kunjira Rogan Rudira Pradighan Gurun Hatvahi Mahanubhavan Gurun Ahatvahi Mahanubhavan Shreyo Bhaktam Vaiksham Apiya Loke Shreyo Bhaktam Vaiksham Apiya Loke Atvartakamam Stogurun Ihaiva Atvartakamam Stogurun Ihaiva Kunjiya Bhogan Rudira Pradighan Kunjiya Bhogan Rudira Pradighan Gurun Atvahi Mahanubhavan
Gurun ahatva hi mahanubhavan
Vaiksham apiha loke.
Teyo bhoktu vaikshamapi haloke
Atvarthakamapsto garoni haiva.
Atvarthakamam stu gurun ihaiva
Indriya bhogan rudira pradigdan.
Indriya bhogan rudira pradigdhan.
Well, because of technology is really good, but because of the nature of technology, I'm not going to ask the devotees to repeat. I'm going to go on to the word for word. Please repeat after me. Gurun. There's not a town in where is it? In Malaysia, up there in the north of Malaysia, there's one town called Gurun. But it's in Kedah. In Kedah?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the town in Kedah. Gurun means the superiors. Ahatva, not killing. He, certainly. Maha-anubhavam, great souls. Shreyaha, it is better. Bhoktum, to enjoy life. Vaiksham, by begging. Api, even. Iha, in this life. Loke, in this world. Hatva, killing. Artha, gain. Kaman, desiring. To, but. Gurun, superiors. Iha, in this world. Eva, certainly. Bunjia, one has to enjoy. Bhogan, enjoyable things. Rudhira, blood. Pradigdan, tainted with. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this is Arjuna. He's still continuing with his, let's say, endeavors to convince Krishna, convince himself, and justify his feelings of weakness that he feels, no, I will not fight. And he's trying to come up with all kinds of justifiable reasons. So today we're hearing one of those justifiable reasons, and a really good one. We've heard about, other things, compassion and so on and so forth, for other living entities, and how society will be dragged down into without the protection of the leaders in society, we will end up with Varna Shankara. That means unwanted population when women are not protected, and there's all kinds of degradation in society. So he's already described all these things, quoting from scripture, and now he's coming up with another one. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Purport, heavy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless, they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. End of purport. I guess we can go back on the screen, Padma. There you go. I don't know. It's okay for me. I don't know about everyone else. think it's okay. Maybe a little tiny bit. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. We can hear you loud and clear.
Can
Hare
everybody
Krishna.
hear?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes,
We can
Maharaj.
hear you loud and
Loud
clear.
and clear, yeah.
You can mute everybody then. Is that what happens or not? Whatever
Yeah.
you do.
I have
Okay.
muted them,
So
Maharaj.
we'll try to enter into the mysteries of this verse and the specialities of this verse. It's quite an amazing meditation. There are several points here, one which Prabhupada doesn't delve into in the purport much, and that is Arjuna saying how he would rather live by begging. So this is, of course, this is not the business of a kshatriya. In the varnashram system of society, different orders of life, they subsist by different means of let's say, sustenance. But begging is not the business. The kshatriya can do just about everything else the brahmin does, but he cannot beg. This is the one thing. So first of all, Arjuna is basically saying that, well, yes, this is adharmic to live by begging. Okay, it is, but it's better than the result of enjoying the kingdom at the cost of the lives of superiors. It's a fine point, you could say. And even we see this pastime or this history, which has evolved in the Battle of Kurukshetra war, has been brewing for a long time, but it was really instigated a lot in the court of the Kauravas when the Kauravas tried to insult the Pandavas and Draupadi in the court, the gambling arena. And even in that situation, Bhishma and Drona were present. They didn't stop the heinous activities of Dushasan and Karna and Duryodhan. And that's history. You can read it in the Mahabharat. But there is an interesting feature of Bhishma. When Bhishma was asked to answer the question of Draupadi, is she actually being won in the gambling match or not? Because it's a very delicate subject matter where Yudhishthira had already given himself away as a slave, was not really in the position to give anything else away. He had nothing. So in one sense, Draupadi was asking a very challenging question. Even Bhishma said, in the rules of Dharma, sometimes things are very difficult to answer. And he said, even this I cannot answer. Some things are very complex and very difficult to answer. There's not a straightforward answer. So you could say that Arjuna was a little justified here. Now we're talking from the relative materialistic point of view. Yes, if I win this kingdom, imagine how I'd feel. Imagine, Krishna, okay, Krishna, you came to this world and you killed a load of demons, that's for sure. That's why Arjuna addresses Krishna in another verse, not in this verse, the previous verse maybe. He addressed him as, or maybe the next one, or somewhere in this sector. He addressed him as Madhu. Yeah, the previous verse, Madhusudana, the killer of the Madhu demon. Now, Madhu was a great demon in the beginning of the universe, Kaituva Madhu. Madhu, they Krishna killed them. So that's all right. You're killing demons. We understand that. But you're asking me to kill my brothers? Would you do that? You're asking me to kill my teacher? Would you do that? My grandfather and my friends, my uncles, and so on and so forth. So many persons who are my superiors, who are very dear to me. First of all, in the first chapter, he discussed those who are very dear, but now he's talking about those who are superior. And here he's mentioning, Bhishma, who's his grandfather, and Drona, who's his guru. Are you asking me to kill these? That's not the same, Krishna. It's a big thing. You are faced with your family members, your guru, your friends, and so on and so forth. You're asking me to kill them? This is too much, Krishna. And from the material point of view, I guess almost everyone would agree with that if you had no spiritual understanding. It's good sense. It makes good sense. On top of that, Arjuna is willing to take the disgrace, as you know, for a kshatriya to desist from fighting when on the battlefield is a great disgrace. Infamy. He's afraid of infamy. There's nothing worse for a kshatriya than to become infamous. It's a real disgrace. But he's willing to take that on and live by begging if necessary. Now we're going to go, you won't be able to see it, but I'm going to go, let's see, 2.5, here must be the other one. This is a commentary here by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse. Let's see now. Yes. So Arjuna says, this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's explaining what Arjuna is thinking. And Arjuna is thinking like this. Okay, it is better to eat food obtained from begging, though it will bring infamy in this life. In other words, if Arjuna stops fighting, he'll become infamous, that's for sure. It will bring infamy in this life, but it will not be inauspicious for future lives. One should not say that these gurus, being obedient to Duryodhana, should be rejected because they have become proud and do not know right from wrong. In other words, he's saying, okay, in this lifetime I'll be infamous, but at least I won't have to suffer the reaction of killing my guru, this, that, and the other in the next lifetime. So we can see his logic. Of course, we see in this verse, in this purport, that Prabhupada is emphasizing that when a spiritual authority or a head, a leader of society misbehaves, then they can be rejected. And there are many examples of that. We have Bali Maharaj rejecting Shukracharya and many others too. I mean, there are many statements in scriptures on what platform, and two of the platforms are mentioned in today's verse, whereby we reject a spiritual authority. And Prabhupada says here in the beginning of the purport, one who engages in abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination. So those are two of the reasons one may reject an authority, even in ordinary society, in material world around us. And we see this all the time, when a politician is caught behaving according to moral principles of modern society incorrectly, he is denounced almost. Or especially a religious leader, even a famous person, maybe a sportsman even sometimes, they have to come up to a certain standard of behavior, and if they don't, then they can be rejected. People reject them like anything. So what to speak of somebody who, is supposed to be, in such an elevated position as Bhishma and Drona? Of course, we can also understand that there are other aspects to this. For instance, in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we see a very, very famous verse, Apichet Sudaracharo. You're probably familiar with that verse, Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak. Whereas this verse is a very, let's say, a verse of great discussion, where Krishna says, it's translated differently. We'll read translation Prabhupada's. It's a little different in Vishwanath Chakravarti's translation, but we'll read Prabhupada's translation to 930. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination. So Dronacharya and Bhisma have more or less being, they didn't do anything, really speaking, in that court of Duryodhana. So they're very sinful to go along with something which is sinful, means one's also implicated in the sin. And when they call it like an accomplice or something. So they're held responsible for that because they're seniors. They should know better, but they did nothing to stop the incident, so to speak. So they were held responsible for that. So that's an abominable action. On top of that, another abominable action is the fact that they'd taken shelter of of Duryodhana. They were, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, they were basically employed by him. And the Brahmin, of course, Bhishma is a Kshatriya, but still he's more than a Brahmin in many ways. He's a Mahajan. We can read in the Bhagavad that Bhishma is one of the Mahajans in society. Out of 12 Mahajans, Bhishma is listed as one of them. He was supposed to know proper behavior and show by example. So in one sense, you could call him up on this, that this is not correct, that he's taken the side of the impious Kauravas. So, but of course, a big plan of Krishna's involved here. But he took that side of the Kauravas, and he was obligated to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra because all along he'd been serving in the court of Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra. So he was implicated there. So as Prabhupada mentions here, due to economic reasons, he was implicated to fight on their behalf. And this is also explained in many places that basically he was getting paid. So for a Brahmin, we've already heard a Kshatriya is not allowed to beg. A Brahmin is never allowed to take a wage or to be maintained or compromised by a Kshatriya. They may accept bhiksha, they may accept donations, but they're not compromised. They can't be obligated to the Kshatriya. They give advice to the Kshatriya, and the Kshatriya doesn't follow, then they leave, or they do something to change the Kshatriya or whatever. But they don't act themselves, and they're not obligated to stay. Or if I disagree with him, I'll lose my wage. It's the usual compromise situation. Brahmins don't do that. So Dronacharya was certainly not, because he had a bit of Kshatriya in him too. But in any way, they were employed by Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, so they were obligated to fight. So in that way, they were also implicated. And it's interesting, there's an amazing verse in the Bhagavad Gita, and this is the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Just hold on a second. Maybe I didn't bring it. There's an amazing purport I found this morning where it's explained very nicely that one who eats in the house of a sinful person becomes very sinful. We might find it before the end of the class if we come across it, but I don't see it right now. But they'd also been eating in the house of Duryodhana, and Duryodhana being what he is, thus consequently such persons are also implicated in that. They may not have been physically eating as remnants or something like that, but that means to be maintained by a person, ultimately being maintained, like we maintain an animal by feeding them, etc. So you become implicated when we eat the food of another. And this is a warning for all devotees when we eat food which is cooked by non-devotees or which is not offered to Krishna. We become implicated in reactions depending on the person. Degrees of sin are a result of that, and that will affect our consciousness very badly. So their consciousness was clouded in that court of Dhritarashtra, the gambling arena. So they were implicated in that. I'm going to read a few more things here. This is interesting statement here in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna is thinking, I'm the doer. This is another illusion Arjuna was in. The illusion which we're all in this material world is we're thinking we're the doers. And this is an illusion. So Krishna removed that illusion in the 11th chapter. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is dispelling all the illusions which Arjuna is. First of all, his illusion about being in this particular case, about incurring sinful reactions. And in the 3rd chapter, we can see that one who doesn't perform his duty incurs sinful reactions, not one who performs his duty, even if he's killing on the battlefield. By killing on the battlefield, if it's rightly situated, one actually gains benefit. One is elevated to the heavenly planets. So one gains much benefit from doing that in ordinary dealings, if it's a proper situation, that is. So, but in the 11th chapter, Krishna says, if you want to follow it, this is verse number 32. Krishna says to Arjuna, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. And in the purport, Prabhupada said, the Lord is saying that even if Arjuna did not fight, every one of them will be destroyed anyway. So that was Krishna's plan. If Arjuna stopped fighting, they would die in another way. Death could not be checked, even if he did not fight. In fact, they were already dead. Time is destruction, and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Lord. That is the law of nature. And in the next verse, which is a really important verse, 33, there Krishna says, Therefore, get up, Arjuna. Get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemy and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Very significant statement. Nimitta matra bhavyasavasachin. Just be an instrument in the fight, Arjuna. And this is taking us to another level now, not just following dharmic, trying to work out one's dharmic position, one's duty, this, that, the other, but another dimension which we'll come to in a moment. And the next verse, text 34, is you could say, the crux verse. Drona, Krishna says, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Not just the enemies in front of us, but the enemies inside of us. We may desist or not desist in killing the enemies in front of us, but we have to kill these enemies of doubt within our hearts. And of course, nowadays it's very difficult because we don't have a varnashram system, neither do we have enlightened leaders to guide us. But we do have Bhagavad Gita, and we do have devotees to help us to, let's say, progress through our life. Now we're going to turn to the same chapter, but text 49. Interesting verse there in the purport. I'm just going to read a bit of the purport. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfather and master. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When the sons of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty, they should be killed. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna, just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful actions. So it's interesting, this isn't something we don't hear much, but this is another reason why Krishna showed the universal form, to convince Arjuna, you should kill them. Usually we hear it's to establish Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and his presence in everything, and everything's going on under his control. But this is a very personal reason, because basically if you go through the Gita, you'll find again and again, Krishna is dismantling all of Arjuna's arguments in the first chapter and the beginning of the second, in chapter after chapter, dismantling those arguments with knowledge. He's destroying all of Arjuna's ignorance with knowledge. Arjuna was in complete ignorance of the most important principle of all, which is the spiritual principle, the higher principle on which we should act. Is like Yudhisthira on the battle of Kurukshetra. Was faced with a dilemma. And of course, Dronacharya was almost invincible, and of course, Yudhisthira and Arjuna, they were both a little hesitant dealing with their guru, no doubt. But Yudhisthira was very hesitant because Duryodhana was very hard to kill. So Krishna said that only if Dronacharya's son Ashvatthama is dead will Dronacharya become fallible, will become vulnerable. So he said, yes, you tell him his son is dead. How can you do that, Krishna? What are you asking me to do? It's like Arjuna's asking, you're asking me to kill my guru and my brothers and so on. Now he's asking Yudhisthira to tell a lie. And Yudhisthira is like son of Dharma. He's like Dharma personified, religious morality personified. So he really didn't want to do it. So Krishna, seeing that he was, and sometimes people say because he kind of did it, therefore his chariot fell on the ground, and his chariot said its wheels would not touch the ground. But after this incident, his wheels went onto the ground. But the actual reason his wheels went onto the ground was because he hesitated in doing what Krishna wanted. He wasn't going to be that instrument, not that far. You tell me what I want to do, and I'll do it. But don't tell me what I don't want to do. That's too much. So in this way, he didn't want to tell a lie, what appeared to be a lie. So okay then. You just tell. At that time, they said, one elephant of the name Ashvatthama will kill him. So you can say that the elephant Ashvatthama has been killed. And that time, and tell Drona like that. And then Drona, well, anyway, whatever. So as Yudhisthira agreed, okay, I'll tell him an elephant named Ashvatthama has been killed. So just as he said the elephant, of course, Krishna blew his conch shell, and nobody heard the elephant. All that Drona heard was Ashvatthama is dead. And of course, he let down his guard and became vulnerable and was able to be pierced by the arrows of Arjuna, and he left his body. So, Krishna was cheating, but he was testing Arjuna, testing all of us. There's a much higher principle in spiritual life, and that higher principle is that actually the highest dharma is to do what dharma is coming from Krishna. Dharmam tu shakshat Bhagavat panitam. Religious principles come from Krishna. They're not made by men or anyone else. They're coming from Krishna. He's the source of all the. Why are religious principles are there? To help us to come to the point of surrendering to Krishna. So if Krishna asks us to do something, that is the highest religious principle. That's the highest religious principle. And if we don't follow it, then we're actually disobeying Dharma. So although we think we are, because we get too attached to what people think of me, we get too attached to the material result of what I do and so on and so forth, rather than the ultimate goal behind everything that we do in our lives. You know, all the work that we do, everything is meant. Some sit here, Hari Toshna, Pumbya Dvija Shrishta, Varnashrama Vibhagasha, Svanusitasya Dharmasya, Sang sit here, Hari Toshna. All that we do in this world is meant for the pleasure of Krishna, whatever it is, whatever our duties in life are. So when Krishna comes, it's like the same thing with Bali and Shukracharya. When Krishna himself came along and said, okay, give everything. Just 3 steps of land, but ultimately everything. Shukracharya said, don't give him anything. So contradicting himself. But Bali was more intelligent and he gave everything to Vamanadev. So this is the nature of a devotee. He actually, so Prabhupada says that Yudhishthira was actually not so advanced as Arjuna because he wouldn't tell a lie. He still didn't do it really. He was too attached to mundane morality. This is a great obstacle on the path of pure devotional service if we're not careful. It can be used up to a point, but ultimately, that's what Sarva Dharman Prithyagya Mamikam Sharanam Raja means, that we have to be willing to abandon even mundane morality, even if it's stated in religious scriptures, if the source of all the scriptures is actually asking us to do something else. It's a sensitive issue, but in principle, that's the situation, because ultimately we're all meant to be serving Krishna's will and not just attached to a particular kind of yoga, attached to a particular kind of religion, attached to a particular practice, a process, or a mundane morality, or whatever it is. We're supposed to become attached to Krishna. So this argument was debunked here by Krishna, in the sense that actually you're not the doer, Arjuna. Everything is being done. I've already killed them all. And your duty, your business as a spirit soul is to be an instrument for my will. So he's taken him to a higher platform. So universal form helped to cement this understanding in Arjuna's consciousness, because it's not just a matter of duty according to the Varnashram. It's a higher, we have 2 swadharmas or constitutional duties, 2 duties. One is conditional, one is constitutional. Constitutional one is according to one's varna, according to the ashram, according to the situation, the material world. But the constitutional one is according to the will of Krishna. So this is the ultimate point. Now, Krishna didn't contradict the you can say the conditional duty of the living entity. He also told him to act according to one's position, but be conscious of me. And the higher principle is do it because I want. Okay, you've justified your reasons why you don't fight, even by quoting scripture, but that is still within the material framework. In Sarva Dharman Prithyagya just brings us towards the spiritual platform, giving up these, let's say, temporary justifications. The real point is surrender unto me. Become my instrument. Act under my direction. Again and again, Krishna emphasizes this throughout the Gita. So that's the highest principle. So that's the point being mentioned here, which Arjuna was completely missing. And practically speaking, everybody misses, because we're on the material bodily platform of life, identifying ourselves as this is mine, this is my cousin, this is my friend. But we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam that there are very nice verses there to remind us that this is not at all the case. Yes, yat mubati kunapetri tadage svadi kala tradishu boma judi yat tirtibuli shalilena kahijik janesha bigesh eva gokaraha. Described how the living entities who think that this body made of material elements is a self, who think that these are my family members, and this is my property, and so on and so forth, who think that their place of birth is worshipable, and so on, who are attached this way, who go to a holy place just to take bath, to try to get freed of one's sinful reactions, etc., is no better than an animal. His mentality of an animal. They also think a little bit like that. So we have to rise above that. So Bhagavad Gita is to try to help us to rise above that. Now, in this verse, I'm going to mention a few more and read a few more things. This is also from the commentary of Vishnu. Do you know what I found? I remember where that verse is, and I found it. Yeah, I know we've got another 15 minutes. This is the purport. I'll read the verse about eating in another's house. Now, this is regarding Lord Chaitanya and Raghunath Das Goswami. And Lord Chaitanya is saying, when one eats, this is Swarup Damodar. I think here in this no, Lord Chaitanya speaking. When one eats food offered by a materialistic man, one's mind becomes contaminated. And when the mind is contaminated, one is unable to think of Krishna properly. And that's what happened to the Kauravas. In the court of the Kauravas, people became bewildered. Purport, and we will also become bewildered if we're not careful. And we can't work things out. And then we start arguing because we fight with each other. Why do we fight? Why do we disagree? Because we're judging things according to our conditional situation. We associate and agree with people who have a similar conditioning to we do. And we find verses from scripture which justify our conditional perspectives. And the other party does the same thing. And you don't get anywhere. It's a matter of might makes right. But it doesn't solve anything. We've got to remove this conditional perspective from our hearts. We can use it according to Dharmic principles, which teaches us, if we're rightly situated, how to use these conditional tendencies according to Dharma, so we gradually become purified. But ultimately, we have to give this up. This is also Sarvadharma and Pratyeka. Arjuna was seeing the battle from his own conditional perspective. He wasn't seeing it from the spiritual platform. The Bhagavad Gita is to help us to come to that spiritual perspective, So everything we do in this material, just like people are attracted to different types of food according to the mode of nature which they're in. So a devotee should not become tempted like that or become conditioned like that. We should eat food which is offered to Krishna. As you know in the Bhagavad Gita, if you eat food which is not, then you're eating sin. So a similar point is mentioned here. One's mind is contaminated. One is able not to think of Krishna properly. We have some vague ideas, kind of cloudy, but we're not seeing things correctly. We're seeing things from our own perspectives, individual, collectively, but we're not seeing it from Krishna's perspective. So that takes, of course, purification of consciousness. The whole purpose of our lives is to purify our consciousness so we can see things correctly. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur suggests that people who are materially inclined and sahajias, or so-called Vaishnavas, who take everything very casually, are both Vishayi or materialists. Eating food offered by them causes contamination, and as a result of such contamination, even a serious devotee becomes like a materialistic man. It's like now we have the coronavirus in different parts of the world, especially it's now in America, was in Europe and a big time for a few weeks in the past. And it is by association one becomes affected. And especially through food. If you eat somebody's food, remnants of someone's food who's got the disease, you have a good chance you'll get it. Association, contamination comes in. So similarly in spiritual life, it's association which is the key factor in changing our perception. We don't see things just from our own perspective. A few verses down the line in the Gita, when Krishna starts speaking, okay, Arjuna, have you finished? Have you finished? Shochanan Vashochas Tvam Pragyavadans Javasase, Katasma Gatasams Cha, Nana Shochanti Pandita. Have you finished, Arjuna? Have you finished your nonsense? Krishna says, you're talking all nonsense. You're speaking like a fool. You're not speaking like a wise person. You don't understand who you are. How can you understand what's going on? A person who doesn't understand who they are is called a madman. And nobody in this world, practically nobody, knows who they are. Even we get carried away with this forgetfulness of who we are and start thinking, I'm this mind, I'm this body, I'm this conditioned being. And we connect with others, we relate to others on this basis. Scripture is there to guide us in that conditioned state to gradually come out of that illusion. So we go on here in the purport. Eating food offered by them causes contamination. There are 6 kinds of association. We should try to develop favorable association. Giving charity, accepting charity, because the ksatriyas can't do that. Accepting food, offering food, talking confidentially and inquiring confidentially. One should very carefully avoid associating with both the sahajas, who are sometimes known as Vaishyas and the Vaishnavas, and the non-Vaishnavas, or Avaishnavas, and that includes particularly, I'm talking in Malaysia, particularly includes those who are Mayavadis, those who are impersonalists, those who are addicted to this concept that, it's all one, we're going to merge into the absolute truth, which almost all the various so-called, spiritual leaders, most of them have this as their bottom line. And this is the most dangerous association, according to Sri Damodar Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we should try to cultivate this talking confidentially, inquiring confidentially amongst devotees. One should very carefully avoid associating with both Sahajas and non-Vaishnavas. Their association changes the transcendental devotional service of Lord Krishna into sense gratification. And of various kinds, even merging into Brahman is sense gratification, because it's me in the center. Sense gratification means seeing the world with myself in the center, no matter what it is, good or bad. Even merging means I want to, become free of suffering. I want to merge into the Brahman. There's no question what Krishna wants. Devotional service means what Krishna wants. And we find out what Krishna wants from Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. The materialistic person who aspires after sense gratification cannot properly think of Krishna. This is explained by Prahlad Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam when he's talking to his beloved father. My dear demon dad, Matirna Krishna Paratuk Svatova Mitobi Padyeti Vihavitanam. That those who are done to go beer, that those who are too much attached to family life and sense gratification, they cannot understand this, Dad. It's not possible, not by their own effort, the efforts of others, or by a combination of both. They can't understand this science of spirituality because we're too attached. Bogaishvaya pasaktanam teyaprita chetasam yavasayatmikabodhi samadhuna diyate. Those who are too attached to sense enjoyment on material opulence, the resolute determination which is necessary and are not bewildered, the resolute determination for a devotional service does not take place. They can't actually, it's not possible. To the degree that we're letting go of our conditional situation or becoming purified, let's say, to that degree we may start to understand a little bit about Krishna. Now we're going to go back just a few roundups here. We're now going to go back to the verse which I mentioned earlier from the 9th chapter, text number 30, where Krishna says, if the most, I'm going to read it from Prabhupada. Did I read it already? I can't remember. 9:30. I read it? I did read it. Huh? Okay. So even if one is, engaged in abominable activity, nonetheless, if one is, fixed in one's determination, it's called ananya bhakta. Ananya bhakti means fixed, resolute, determined service, devotional service. If one is fixed in that point, then one is not considered sinful, but rather one is still considered a sadhu or a saintly person. The translation I'm looking at is different, so I'm kind of summarizing it. And in the purport or commentary on this verse, we find Baladev Vidyabhushana. No one Prabhupada talks about it in terms of accidental fall downs, which come due to conditional life, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes because of our past conditioning. There's an amazing purport by Srila Prabhupada. I won't have time to read it, and I can't let you know. I don't know where it is right now. I'd have to go somewhere to find it. But I remember reading this amazing purport where Prabhupada said that sometimes, even our followers, sometimes they are caught smoking cigarettes. But the main thing is they're still engaged in devotional service. And we're not going to, Prabhupada was going on saying, we're not going to get on their case even. We just encourage them to become more fixed in Ananya Bhakti, devotional practical service. And in due course of time, by rendering such service, they'll become free of that bad habit. So it's a matter of a step-by-step process. And if they're actually attracted to devotional service, the secret is to fan that attraction. And this is, of course, in regards to Bhishma and Drona. They were devotees. They never gave up being devotees of Krishna. They were just put into this situation by Krishna's arrangement to compromise their situation and show what happens when you compromise and teach us a lesson, and to also play various parts in the great enactment of the Battle of Kurukshetra in relation with the Pandavas, etc. They had a part to play, being on the opposite side, etc. I'll just read on. If an Ananya Bhakta, even doing very degraded activities, worships me, serves me by singing my glories, and by other acts, he should still be considered worthy of respect. Arjuna's word. This is almost supporting Arjuna here, but justifying it. But as we mentioned earlier, the real point is what Krishna wants, not what mundane morality dictates. But so Krishna says he's still worthy of respect. He is Ananya in the sense that he does not worship or take shelter of anyone other than me. But there's a fact sometimes persons who are very sinfully inclined because of their past conditioning, but they have like this complete, we have many examples, a complete determination to somehow or other serve Krishna. He accepts me alone as the supreme goal and master. The word eva, sadhu eva, means that he's worthy of worship in any case. Therefore, everyone should accept this fact, mantavya. They are still considered to be mantavya, very great souls. It is the injunction of the Lord himself not to do. It is the injunction of the Lord himself. Not to do so is an offense. The Lord then supports his order by giving the reason why that devotee is worthy of respect. In any case, he has the best type of conviction in the form of being fixed only on me. Samyag vivasitaha. It is said, Bhagavatija Ravananya Cheta. The person who has exclusive devotion to the Lord may have serious contamination, but he is still glorious. The moon, though having spots on it, is never defeated by darkness. That's from the Nrsimha Purana. So bear that in mind when we're dealing with each other. Okay, we've got our defects, that's for sure. But look at the fact that we're trying to serve Krishna. We have to try to see things from a more productive or positive point of view, as well as just the negativity, which is easy to see, very easy to see. Now that opens up a big can of worms, but I'm going to leave the worms in the can. Some of you may want to ask what they are, what to do with them when they come out, etc. And how do we deal with situations when persons behave in unbecoming ways, even gurus, sannyasis, GBCs, leaders of temples, Brahmins, all kinds of things go on. We may, well, what to do about this? Do we just turn a blind eye and say, well, they're doing, Ananya Bhakti, and they can do any damn thing they like under the sun? There's more to it than that. But we'll leave those worms in the can, and we'll go back a little bit here to two more comments from Baladev Vidyabhushan. I think it's his birthday tomorrow. I say no. Well, it was that with Baladev Vidyabhushan.
3 minutes. There's 3 minutes to 3. 3 minutes to 3.
Yeah, great, isn't it? Wonderful. 3 more minutes. So thank you for that. So rejection of the guru is also if the guru becomes too proud. This is a verse from Mahabharat. And it does not behave properly, becomes engaged in sinful life. These are various reasons one may reject a authority, but not just like that, because we're also proud. We're also not behaving properly. Who are we to judge? So we always take the association of sadhus to make such conclusive statements. Bhishma said to Yudhishthira, it's an interesting thing. It is Mahabharat is full of all of these dharmic kind of like statements. And he said, man is a servant of wealth. Wealth is not the servant of anyone. O king, I have been bound by wealth to the Kauravas. He said it himself. It's not just an analysis. Bhishma himself said, I've been bound by wealth to the Kauravas. Therefore, I am obligated. And such a person, therefore, has not their great character, their characters that's been destroyed by being bound, compromised by wealth. Very dangerous situation. So we've now reached 3 o'clock, and we're supposed to finish at 3 o'clock. Let's see what to say. Hare Krishna. One last thing before we go on to the chat. Talking about Krishna, Sarvadharma, Prithyagya, something which we have faced with also. There's an amazing verse in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't have it here. There's a verse spoken by Karabhajana Muni anyway, speaking this verse to Maharaj Nimi, and it describes how one who has taken complete shelter, fully shelter of Krishna, is no longer obligated. Arjuna's thinking he is obligated to his forefathers. He's obligated to these great persons. He's obligated to society, obligated here and there, everywhere, the demigods. But Krishna explains there that one who has taken complete shelter of Krishna is no longer obliged or obligated to anyone, family members, people in general, demigods, forefathers, but that means complete ananya bhakti. Ananya Bhakti, one who's really fixed in their goal. The most important principle of devotional service is that we constantly put in Krishna's will in the center, even if we fall, even if we make a mistake, etc. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So maybe anyone like to give any comments or questions, please feel free to do so. We have some, we'll go back and forth one to the next. I'm only going to answer questions relevant to the class. It's not questions. There's one question here which is a little bit off of the class, I must say. Okay. Who are often traveling? Okay, it's a good one. This is related to class. It's a great one. It's a very important question by from Padmanetra to all panelists. I don't know, I hope you can hear it at least. Would like to ask for who are oftenly traveling. Okay, men, women, whoever it is, you may be traveling on business. Much of the time, we are unable to consume prasadam nor able to cook for our own due to so busy schedules that most we try to consume vegan food from the restaurants. The food may be cooked by people who may not be vegan, nor the mode of the food being cooked is unknown, but we have to consume due to the situation, and by us saying or offering prayers to Krishna prior to consuming the food, are we freed out of the material contamination? That was actually through Padmanetra Prabhu by a devotee, somebody else, Prabesh or whatever. Fantastic, well done. Thank you so much for that. Very important subject matter, and I know this is a common question in Malaysia, and commonly it's discussed, and not only in Malaysia, in many, many places. Time, place, and circumstance. We see in the case of, even in Prabhupada's movement, that Prabhupada, when it came to service, one devotee was asked to go to Russia in the early 70s to preach, and they couldn't find anything to eat. What to speak of vegan, they couldn't hardly find vegetarian. And they said to Prabhupada, I can't stay here, I can hardly get vegetarian food. Prabhupada said, then eat meat. He said, but you've gone there to preach, you haven't gone there to eat. So that's like an extreme. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would be sometimes extreme too with his Bengali disciples who couldn't live without rice. He said, if you have to eat rice on a Kaddish in order to preach, then eat it. But preaching was the most important. So it depends on our situation. And it depends on our mood. Sometimes we don't, and there's a nice point at the end there, offering prayers. Again, it depends on our consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj was given poison by his father, but it was, nothing happened to him because he was so surrendered to Krishna, such a devotee. Krishna completely protected him, and the food became like, normal nectar or whatever, normal food. And he wasn't affected by the poison. So he was immune from it because of his consciousness. So there's other factors. Our consciousness is involved too. Sometimes unknowingly you eat something. Prabhupada was at one program in Punjab one time, and the host prepared prasad, food, at least in the devotees offered. They didn't know, but the host had used onions in the preparation. And Prabhupada sat down for prasadam, and one of the devotees sat next to him. One of his servants said, Prabhupada, there's onions in the food. And Prabhupada said, I know, carry on eating. Prabhupada said, we've come here to preach. If you don't eat now, our preaching will be lost. So the guru can do that. We may not be able to take such risks. But the point is that time, place, and circumstance, we have to know. And our consciousness, I mean, if your conscious is you don't care less, you're not serious about this, then of course, that's another thing. But if one is serious, Krishna will protect us. If you have to, you're in prison or you're in a sick state, you sometimes have to take things you would not normally do just to survive. And when you're a business personality or a traveling personality, you may not. But as much as possible, try to purify it as much as you can in the best possible way. As you say, you're taking vegan, you can't guarantee it's pure. You can't guarantee anything. If you can live on raw food, all good for you. Most people can't, especially working men, it's very hard. But if you can, or if you can take pre-prepared food. Prabhupada told us when we were traveling around England for weeks on end on Sankirtan to prepare, pre-prepare things and not buy prepared things from the shops, etc. We weren't cooking in those days. We had muesli and bread and things like that. So we would make it before we leave and take it with us as much as we can. You can't do everything, we understand that. But just do the best thing you can. And as you're doing, you say some prayers and ask Krishna, please, you understand my position. Please correct me if I'm doing something wrong. Please purify me if, whatever it may be. I can't live without eating. I'm not on that level. Please purify this offering which I'm making. I used to do that when I worked in a factory. I just buy some what I thought was vegetarian from the canteen and just Sri Vishnu or something. I didn't know anything when I was working much in the factory there, and just try to offer it like that, but do my best to avoid eating things which we know, especially if we know we should avoid at all costs if we can, which are contaminated. Just do your best. It's one of those, Krishna understands your heart, and if you're sincere, you're okay. Here we go. Question from somebody here. India. Truthfulness is a quality of a Brahmin devotee, and yet he asks Yudhisthira to lie. In the material world, this may make people to lie in the confidence that Krishna sanctioned. Yeah, that's what I say, it's a can of worms, isn't it? So how can we identify the fine line between lying, which is a sin, and lying, which is dharmic? So persons who are still conditioned in this material world should follow the dharmic principles. We shouldn't, if we have some material, this is described, I don't know where, I'm somewhere in the Bhagavatam, but whatever situation, if we're still conditioned in this world, we're still attached to this world, we're supposed to follow dharmic principles correctly. We don't try to imitate elevated souls. So, but in the case of Yudhisthira, Krishna was teaching another example, a higher principle of surrender. When Krishna is personally in front of us, he may do that. Or when the spiritual pure devotee asks us to do that, we may do that. But otherwise, we should be extremely careful taking these risks. If the spiritual master tells us, you should do this, as devotees often did during Prabhupada's time, but he directly told them, and if they were wrong, he would correct them. So we have a system of checks and balances to help us to know what is the right course of action or the right course of behavior, so that we don't do anything. But religious principles are established by the behavior of devotees. So in general, in society, we try as much as we can to abide by various religious principles. Sometimes it's not always possible. That also comes under the category of ksatriyas. And sometimes one may do things which are not considered in society to be absolutely correct in preaching. But as much as possible, Prabhupada says, a devotee tries to make both parallel with each other so they go compatibly with each other. And if in doubt, we have to inquire in certain circumstances from our authority. But the general principle is that persons who are still dependent on the material world have to follow the rules of this material world and the rules of Dharma in order to become elevated. That's why Varnashram system is very important, even in our own ISKCON society, to help people to be properly situated and to follow the particular guidelines which are relevant to their situation. We'll go on, and there's no more on the chat. Are there any on the Facebook, pardon?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Nothing to do with it. Yeah. Sudama, is you?
Yes,
Yeah,
Maharaj.
yes, yeah.
Maharaj, one question. Arjuna had the company of Krishna, but often in today's day and time, when we see we have, close relatives or family members or acquaintances in our office who are not aligned or who are up against us, even for whatever reason it might be, then how do we tackle in practical life today? We cannot upright go against them and just fight them out. But in today's day and age, how do we tackle them in a situation which is cordial to the environment also and doesn't affect our relationships?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we find ourselves in different situations there. People are working in offices, schools, or wherever it may be, business of some kind or whatever. And then you have your family and social interactions, which you have to certainly take into account. So you do the best you can to try to minimize the amount of, let's say, compromise, but interaction on those levels. Obviously at work, you can't start arguing with your boss. You can't tell your boss to put the cigarette out. You can't tell other people to move because you don't like the way they smell, etc., etc. You just do your best to try to immunize yourself so that you're as Krishna conscious as you can. And the same thing in social dealings, by trying to behave in the best way we can. You know, if you're working, then you have a duty. You have to follow the various principles of the work office or whatever it may be, but try not to compromise one's own practices, one's own behavior in terms of one's, you know, say, being eating and things like this, or indulging in the activities which they do. And if you're going to an office party or something, then you have to be very careful not to become inclined, especially if one's serious about spiritual life. Those who are initiated particularly should avoid indulging in things which are, not to be indulged in. There may be unknowing exceptions that sometimes occur, but we should try to consciously avoid things which have untouchable things in them, or food which is cooked by an untouchable person. You can say you're a vegan, or you can say whatever you like. I don't know how you get away with it, but different circumstances are different. So try to minimize this thing, do the same thing in our family as much as possible. And again, a little bit of common sense has to be there to see what the result of such behavior is also. If the result is you lose your job, or something like that, or you break any chance of that person coming to Krishna consciousness, then we have to look at it a little more carefully. Prabhupada also did that sometimes when he was dealing with people. It wasn't compromise exactly, but he would accept things from them that weren't pure. He wouldn't eat them, but he would accept them and do different things just to encourage, like a child. So you have to be a little conscious of that situation as much as we can. We don't want to create waves or arguments. There's no point being there. In preaching, there's no point going somewhere if we're not willing to interact with the persons we're supposed to be preaching with. So when you're working in the office, then obviously you have to interact with people around you. If you're doing business, you have to act. And you have to, for the sake of business, you may have to read something. You may have to discuss certain things which you would not normally discuss. Same thing in the family, but you keep it to a minimum. You don't indulge in it. You don't try to go down there and try to make that the topic of your life. So you do it. Then you do the needful, and then get on with your business. As grihastas, as working people, you do the needful and get on with your business. Mm-hmm. Oh, the other thing on that previous question about lying in confidence, yes, it could be misunderstood by people in general. Therefore, the Vedic scriptures are there, and they're not easy to understand for most people. Therefore, most people are not really familiar with these things. Indian people are. That's why everyone needs a guide. That's why everyone needs a guru. Otherwise, one will miss. If we take it from our own conditional perspective, we will get the wrong understanding. But people are, unfortunately, are not following. They're not actually having an opportunity. This is a great responsibility of the Hare Krishna movement to provide this vacuum in society. It's our duty to try to help people to understand it properly according to the circumstances. In other situations, Krishna would not. He may have said something different. So the people have to understand situation accordingly. But without some spiritual understanding or some humility at least, it's very hard for people to understand these principles because they're very conditioned. So such things are not generally spoken to people in general because they will not understand. Pure devotional service is way beyond their grasp of comprehension. So it's the Hare Krishna movement is supposed to help people rise to that platform so they can understand. So you have to teach things which are relevant to their particular situation. It may not be something for the general public, but it's subject matter of today's verse. So the devotees are supposed to understand these things. Anything else?
There's no any more question from Facebook, Maharaj.
Excuse me?
Yeah, there's no any more question from Facebook. So, yeah, there's no any question.
Any from Facebook?
From Zoom?
Facebook or Footbook? Anyone from Footbook?
No, Maharaj, there's no any more question.
That's the humble book. The Footbook is the humble one. Question?
No, Maharaj, there is no question from Facebook unless any participant in Zoom.
Okay, well, we're at 15 something like that. We're on 15 minutes, so I guess that's our time frame. I've got another Zoom call, another Zoom class coming up soon, and go and do that now.
Sri Chaitanya Prabhu would like to say a few words to you, Maharaj.
Hare
Who's
Krishna
that?
Maharaj.
Who's
Right,
this?
Sri Chaitanya
I
Prabhu.
can't see. Oh, Shiva Chaitanya.
Yeah, from.
Please accept my obeisance, Maharaj.
Oh,
Thank
bless the
you.
Prabhupada. Fine.
Oh,
You look like you're in TODU. Are you in TODU?
Yeah. Yes,
Oh,
Maharaj.
wonderful. Haribol, Shiva.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your time. Wonderful discuss here for
Hare Krishna.
coming. Hare Krishna.
Good to see you. And,
Maharaj,
I guess
Maharaj, today is Shiva Chaitanya's birthday, Maharaj.
Oh, Haribol, Shiva Chaitanya's birthday. What a wonderful day. Congratulations.
Please bless Maharaj.
Yeah, indeed. Very dear
Yeah,
to me. Thank you very much, all of you. You're very dear. It's wonderful to see you online here. Well, I won't embarrass you by asking you how old you are. But you are eternal. You are eternal. You never die. Don't
That's
forget
50,
that.
Maharaj.
Don't get too attached to the body. You're an eternal spirit soul. And this body is a vehicle which you're going back to Godhead by using it in Krishna's service. Every moment counts. Prabhupada said the older we get, the happier we get, and the freedom from anxiety. I hope you get more happier as you go, as your body ages, and you no longer identify with the causes of suffering so much. There are no shortage of them. Are you still in lockdown there?
Yes, Maharaj, lockdown.
Really? My
You know,
goodness.
they tried to open the 10th.
They're really punishing you guys over there. There's hardly any cases of COVID. You're all being punished like this. I don't understand. Strange. Whereas over here in France, they have so many, and now the lockdown's over.
Yeah.
What to do? Nothing happens by chance.
Yes, Maharaj. We were started doing food for life and all, Maharaj.
Oh, good. That's good news. Yeah, that's good news. Food for life.
Yeah.
They give life to people, otherwise they will be eating sinful food only. So you've got to distribute tons and tons of prasadam so that people get that opportunity. Fantastic. More prasadam. Distribute more prasadam. And flood the world with prasadam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Name basis is Hare Krishna Kanaya and Nitai Goswami.
Yes, sure, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, be careful.